Hey Dale, Jim Delapine here, and I am going to give you some feedback on your very interesting submission. So let me just zoom in here. Just a few tips here. To zoom in quickly, use your spacebar and your control key. All right, that gives you access to the zoom tool. To zoom out, spacebar, control, alt. Okay, if you're in the Mac, it's spacebar, command, and then spacebar, command, option. That's the same thing. You're just replacing the control key with the command key. All right, so I'm surprised that this is really looking good. You did a good job with the layer masks. I could tell. I mean, you really didn't need to put in this kind of background yet, but it's okay. So I mean, note that if I fill this with black, um, that's how I could tell that you do a good job on the layer masks. Okay, so let me undo that. And oh, by the way, if you were going to quickly fill something, just a shortcut, Alt Delete will fill your foreground color. All right, and Control Delete will fill with the background color. All right, so I see that you took the initiative to create shadows to help connect the images or the elements together, and I think that's a terrific idea. But I wanted to show you the preferable way or the more beneficial way. So you've got a shadow. Let's see, if I'm in my move tool and I have the auto select active. Note that if you click on any particular element or its pixel, it will take you directly to that layer. So it makes things a lot easier. So I see that this layer here, layer one, is on its own layer and it's a shadow, but it really doesn't look like a shadow. Okay, so let's talk about how we could get a more accurate shadow. So let's go to this one here, the arm shadow. I'll hide that. I'll actually delete that. Well, let me just create a new layer. How's that? So I'm creating a new layer, which is the smart thing to do. Okay, this way you have control over it. So this here, I need to go to the arm. So this arm layer here. So I have a new layer here and the doll arms copy layer. I'm going to control click on the layer mask icon. Okay. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to control click. Um, hmm. Let me correct myself here. I'm going to simply paint directly on this new layer. And it's below the arm layer, right? So if I go to my paintbrush tool, I'm going to give myself a soft brush, maybe 25%, all right, which I can edit later. And it's to your benefit to create things on their own layers because you have more control. So now what I'm going to do is click on the foreground color and click and select a medium to dark gray. Hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is start painting on that new shadow layer. Okay, so if I paint, okay, I may want to increase my brush size, for example. So if I hit my right bracket key, that automatically is the shortcut for increasing your brush size. The left bracket key decreases the brush size. So now if I want to create a shadow, notice that if I want to create a shadow under here, it's going to paint onto the background. So I want to avoid that. So let me undo that. All right, and I'm going to go to this layer here that has the snowman body. Okay, I'm going to control click on that layer mask. That's going to create a selection. All right, then I'm going back to my shadow, which is layer 4, and now I'm going to use my paintbrush to create a shadow, and this is where your artistic eye comes in. You have to imagine where a shadow will be. Okay, so I'm just going to click and drag, and I would say something like that. All right, if you want a softer shadow underneath that, you would use a larger brush size. So I'll get a much larger size and just kind of click there. And you could also decrease the power of your paintbrush. Also, I'll bring it down to maybe 25%, and now I can paint with uh, less impact or less a softer result, I should say. Okay, so something like that. So now I'm going to deselect. All right, so now this kept the shadow onto the snowman body. Now here's the important thing here. What you've done, or what I've done, is put opaque paint, for lack of a better word, opaque pixels, gray pixels onto this. So it's not really a true shadow, but it will be a true shadow if you put that layer into multiply mode. All right, it's now a true shadow. And you'll note that If you want to apply a layer style, for example, if I double click on any layer here, you get a layer style. So if I choose drop shadow, note that the default blending mode is multiply. Okay, so it doesn't show you the true result here because it's just kind of a bland whitish background. But if the shadows are on other more detailed elements, it will look like a better shadow. So I can also decrease the opacity of my layer. So that's decreasing the intensity of the shadow. All right, so you have more control there. So keep that in mind. That's really a true shadow, and that also avoids this. See how the shadow falls onto the background? That couldn't possibly happen. A shadow could not exist in midair. Okay, um, so there's that. And for example, I see that you have eyes here. This is a great little addition here. So let's say you wanted these eyes to appear like inside the car, though. All right, so you've got this here, and this just for kicks, I'll make this a little bigger. I'm not suggesting that you do, but I just want to show you what's possible here. Okay, and the advantage of layer masks also. So if I want these to appear inside the car here or like peering out, I would select the layer mask, go to my paintbrush tool, make sure that my paintbrush tool is at 100% hardness on a hard edge, okay? And then I'll reduce my brush size by hitting the left bracket key, and then I'll zoom in again. So I'm looking at the edge of my circle, so I'm going to click right here. Note that my layer mask is active, black is my foreground color, I have a hard edged paintbrush. Let me decrease it a little more. So if I click here and then rest the edge of the circle along the top of this yellow area here, the top of the windshield for lack of a better word, and then hold down the shift key and click. I'm creating a straight line that goes across. However, I forgot that I decreased the opacity, so let me bring it back up to 100% opacity and do that again. So I'll click and shift click. All right, so now it appears as if it's inside the car simply because of a layer mask. All right, so listen, I'm going to stop here. I hope that helped. And carry on. Great job. For example, this here also, this would not, if you want it to appear like it's inside this lip of this, whatever that is, I would select the layer mask and do the same exact thing I just did. Click and shift click. All right, now it looks like it's inside this, whatever that is. All right, all right. Okay, take care. Bye.